Hello again, and I'm so happy. Oh my God, I'm so happy to be introducing very shortly none other than Tami Simon, the CEO of Sounds True. She's got some stuff to talk about that I don't think a lot of people know, and you're going to be really interested to hear about. But before we begin that, I want to take a moment and do a mindful transition. Or the opportunity for a mindful transition and creating some space to just simply arrive and bring our attention and our focus and our presence into this moment. So, whatever was going on before, if you're communicating at the tables or you're taking care of whatever you're doing, social media or simply living your life, and now you're here. And take a breath. I like to close my eyes, but certainly everyone has their own methods. And just relaxing and noticing what's going on in you right now. How does it feel to be sitting where you are? Emotions, concerns, hopes, all those things are true for you right now. Whatever it is. And just pressing pause on your life for the next 40 or 50 minutes. I probably organically need to spend another 15 minutes here, but wow, I'm anxious and feeling it to bring up Tami and welcome her to The Future is Mindful. While her video gets started, I'd like to just give you a little background here. That Tami is the founder of Sounds True in Boulder, where at the age of 22, over the years, at the age of 22, she founded it. And over the years, it's grown to be perhaps the most widely known resource for those interested in personal transformation. Sounds True is the publisher for amazing set of authors, speakers, spiritual meditation leaders, including Eckhart Tolle, Peter Levine, Tara Brach, Carolyn Miss, Michael Singer, Thich Hanh, Jack Kornfield. I mean, oh my God, the list is incredible. And while the success and quality of Sounds True public is actually, almost legendary in a way, and Tami's voice is actually legendary. Of course, a great interviewer. But less well known is that under her direction, Sounds True created what could be, and I don't know the numbers, but it seems to me, having been in several of these trainings and experienced inner MBA myself, that it could be the world's most successful training program that there is for those seeking to bring more of the wholeness into their life and work. Now, that's quite a statement. The Inner MBA program at Sounds True is in its second year, I believe so, and currently has 1,500 participants in a 9-month program, including me. In one of the meetings at the Inner MBA with Tami, she said, every profession, every organization will have to be remade with the recognition of our interconnectedness in the coming years if we're going to have a just and living world. I wrote that down. So you can see why we're really excited to welcome Tami Simon as our closing keynote to The Future is Mindful.
Thank you, Brett. What a generous introduction. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's great to be with all of you, and I hope we can have some interaction and dialogue between us. If there's anything you'd like me to talk about, I'm here for you. So write it in the chat, and we can connect together and make this a co-creative experience. Brett gave me a terrific title for this session, training a new generation of leaders for a new vision of business. And as I was sitting and I was meditating on that title, what occurred to me is a recent interview that I did with a gentleman named Jerry Kalana, who wrote a book called Reboot. And he's a very successful and high-level executive coach. And I know there may be some coaches here with us. And I started the interview in a kind of provocative way, for whatever reason. It's what occurred to me. And I said, Jerry, the coaching profession is one of those professions that seems like it has people operating at a lot of different levels. Some people haven't really received much training. I don't know if they're particularly good at it. And then there are some people like you, you're coaching some of the leading CEOs in the world, actually. You're a master at it. What do you think makes a really terrific coach? And his answer was so surprising to me. He said, it's the same quality that makes a terrific therapist, and it's the same quality that makes a terrific business leader. Same quality. And I was a little bit like, okay, I kind of get the coach and the therapist, and it's the same quality that makes a terrific business leader. And he said, yeah, it's called presence. It's your presence. And when he said that, kind of a light went on for me. And I felt like I inhabited my body more in the conversation with him, just hearing that word. And I think in a way, hearing the word presence, it brings our mindfulness into an embodied moment right here. We know when someone walks into a room and they have a quality of presence. We know it. You know it. I know it. First of all, they bring some kind of balm, healing balm into the space, even if they don't say a lot. There are certain people that I work with. I just like having them in the room even sometimes, it's just medicinal to have their presence there. I also believe that it's our genuine creativity and our contribution to other people that comes from presence. So I want to talk a little bit about that because we don't often talk about what does it mean to train people in accessing presence, resting in presence, interacting with presence, and creating from presence. What does that mean? One of the teachers that we've done a lot of work with at Sounds True, his name is A.H. Alness. That's the pen name that he writes under. His name is Hamid Ali. And he calls presence, this is a really strong statement, the elixir of enlightenment. Whoa, really strong language. The elixir of enlightenment. So an elixir, it's like a substance. So here's what I know from my own experience, which is that when we connect with that palpable sense of, you could call it here-ness, substantiality, openness, receptivity, there's a quality of groundedness that comes with it. And there's an immediate embrace of the unknown. What gives us the capacity to actually meet the moment? I love that phrase. We hear it a lot these days. It's this quality of presence. So how do we connect with it? In my experience, the training that's needed has to begin with a training in embodiment, feeling, sensing this elixir. It's palpable. Can you sense an alive quality, a buzz? Eckhart Tolle, who Brett mentioned in the introduction, one of the authors we work with, he calls it the inner body. Can you feel that? Can you feel that aliveness? Now you may think, Tami, really? This is how you're starting your presentation on a new training of business leaders? And it is. Because if we want people to trust us, which I think we do if we're going to be successful as any kind of business leader, they have to feel that our words, our tone of voice, our expressions, and our actions are all coherent, that there's a congruence in us. And we sniff out incongruence in people. Our sensors go off. You know what I mean? Somebody says, I'm telling you the truth. You can feel it when they're not. I don't know how but something in your belly, something out of the corner of your eye. You pick up on something. So we, in order to be trustworthy people to work with, we have to be in our bodies. So then we're speaking from known bodily states. So when someone says, "How are you?" you're able to give an answer that's congruent, really congruent in the moment. "I'm exhausted right now, and I'm really happy to see you." I'm whatever it might be. And so even right now, here together, this is one of the things I love to do, and I do it naturally in a working environment in terms of feeling your body, the first step in cultivating presence. Just feel the weight that's in your body, the natural force of gravity. So that's your feet on the ground. That's your sits bones on the chair. That's your shoulders relaxing, letting go of stress. Feel the weight. And on the exhale, you can let yourself feel heavier and more weighty. It's like the exhale drops you in more and more and more. Let your feet almost feel like they're planted in the earth, even though they're probably on the floor or the carpet of a room that you're in, but you can feel them sinking in. And here's a big one. A lot of us hold a lot of tension in our belly. Can we breathe right into our belly? And on the inhale, let our belly expand like a balloon. And then on the exhale, it contracts like a shrunken balloon. Oof. And we're becoming more in touch with what's right here with each other. When it went and became time for us as a group to design a training program that would draw on the world's wisdom traditions and bring that wisdom into business, we knew we needed to start with embodiment and the invitation of a felt sense of presence. This is how we become people who know how to be self-managed. So the first trimester of the Inner MBA, the program's divided into 3 trimesters, is all about the cultivation of awareness and presence and becoming self-managed. We often focus so much on managing other people or managing situations. But here we start, and we have to start with ourselves. Can we manage ourselves? Brett was talking about the power of our speech and our words. Can we manage that gateway and choose skillful, uplifting speech? Wow, not an easy thing to do. A cultivation of a lifetime. So the first trimester is devoted to this art of self-management. And then in the second trimester of the Inner MBA, once you're grounded in that, and it's a big deal to become grounded in that, there's this quality of interpersonal presence. And this is where our level of anchoring, our sense of calm becomes challenged. And it becomes challenged, of course, and we all know this, when people come to us and they say, I have some feedback for you. I'd like to share with you some feedback. Right then and there, you can feel all your switches go on. At least I can inside, or a bunch of switches, maybe not all of them, but a bunch. And the question comes up in that moment, do you know how to regulate yourself and be skillful in whatever your response is to whatever you're hearing? So in the Inner MBA, our second trimester is all devoted to presence in our interpersonal interactions. Sometimes people call this co-mindfulness. So we have the practice of mindfulness that we're doing on our own. And one of the things I learned in my experience is I was able to become, almost like a freaking Buddha, as long as I was just sitting by myself. I would go on these long meditation retreats, and it was really my wife who got my attention. And she was like, you're terrific on a solo meditation retreat. How come you don't want to go on a vacation with me? And you seem so scared about the intimacy and some of the conversations that we'll have. And this was, a long time ago. We've been together for 20 years now. But in the beginning of our relationship, I was just terrified. I was terrified. And I was like, I'm going to go on a meditation retreat. And she was like, again? And I realized that it was the work of co-mindfulness. It was the work of being with another person and in an intimate way, but also working with other people. That was really the growing edge for me. And that's what got me actually at a certain point to prioritize, because I was like, I want to focus on my growing edge, not on what's easy for me being by myself. And my growing edge is when triggers happen, like for me in an intimate space, it had to do with the triggers that happened with my early caregivers and all of the ways that I felt I would be engulfed and taken over. I'm probably telling you more than you need here, but also with other people. It's really hard. I can get defensive when I feel people are criticizing me, etc. And I was like, that's the work. And part of what is underneath the design of the Inner MBA, because this is what became so important to me, was how do we operationalize mindfulness, if you will? How do we take presence into all of our interactions, into our relationships? Because that's really where we're tested. That's really where it matters. And that's really where our love either gets expressed and communicated or doesn't. That's when we get to share our heart with other people, or we don't. We hold back. So this whole sense of bringing our full presence at work into our interactions with other people, especially when we're under stress, when we're challenged. There's a part of the Inner MBA that's focused on navigating difficult conversations, the ability to walk into conflict and hold our seat and hold our front open, our heart open, and have a strong spine. And what I mean by that, the strong spine, is that we stay in our integrity. We stay in our truth. We stay in the boundaries we need to share and communicate. And yet we're wildly open at the same time. We're soft. We're receptive. We don't know what's going to happen. We haven't come with some agenda that's closed off the ability for new information to come in. As part of this whole section of training on co-mindfulness, we learn how to take other people's perspectives and recognize that other people don't think the way we think. They don't. They don't see the world the way we see the world. And isn't that wonderful? Because if our team was just made up of people, honestly, I need so many different kinds of people to help me get anything done. And I think that's true for most of us. If you really start looking at the different capacities, the different skills, and with that, the different cognitive frameworks. In the Inner MBA, there's a presenter, his name's Lex Sisney, and he talks about creating exceptional teamwork and how you need to have people who are the stabilizer types. They're the project managers. They're the people who want to dot every I and cross every T. Well, that's the opposite type of somebody like me. And often we have this natural inclination. We like the kinds of people who are like us, but actually we need working with us on our team, the kinds of people who are the opposite to us to help us. I'm in this innovator category. And then there's the producer type who's like, let's go, 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 go. And then the unifier who wants to bring everybody's voice together. And his premise, and it's really the underlying ethos here that I'm trying to share, is that we need all of these different learning styles at the table with a deep respect and a deep appreciation for each other's gifts, each other's unique way of seeing a problem we're trying to solve. And when we bring it all together, then we have a truly exceptional team. And we respect each other. We respect these differences. And then, of course, a huge part of co-mindfulness, of being present with each other, is a sense of radical inclusion of all kinds of difference, a welcoming, a huge welcoming, and a curiosity about what we don't know, about other people's experience. We have to lead with that. When we're open, when we're curious, when we're loving, when we're welcoming, people come and they connect with us. One of the core values that we have at Sounds True, one of our 5 core values, is authentic connection. And I think the reason that that is so central, and we want to be authentically connected with each other, the people we work with, but also with the authors we work with. We want to be authentically connected with our customers, the people who purchase the books and audio programs that we create, is because I think it's a deep human longing that we all have to be connected to each other, to recognize that, to feel welcome. And if mindfulness is going to be real in organizational life, it will manifest as a space of huge, open-armed welcoming of difference of every kind, every kind. So this is the second trimester of the training we've created. We start with ourselves, then we move to the interpersonal level, teamwork, and then finally, and this is something I think is so interesting, when we connect more and more with this palpable quality, this alive quality, sometimes I refer to it as a kind of lit up quality because we can feel it inside. And at least in my experience, it feels like the lights are on inside. When we can connect with that, it naturally expresses itself in wanting to give to other people, in contributing our gifts, in being a creative force in the world. As Brett said in his introduction when he was quoting me from some session at the Inner MBA, I believe that our knowing of how our presence has an ultimate level connection with everyone else in all of life, it asks us to create organizations, structures that reflect that, so we can feel in integrity at our work. And I think we're in a transition right now where there is an old form of business, one that we inherited, one that for many of us, there were many aspects of it that didn't work. I know for me, the whole idea, there's like this small C-suite, and then there's, a cliff, and that never worked for me. I always thought it was really odd. I'm like, why is there a small group of people in a room making decisions? That's ridiculous. We have a different structure at Sounds True, where we have a 13-person leadership team, and we're trying to push authority down all the time so that the people who are closest to the work have the most decision-making power over the work they're doing as possible. That's just one example. When you look at it and you go, something's not right around here, it just doesn't feel right. I know that's what they taught you in the world of business school. One of the presenters in the inner MBA, and there's wisdom teachers, there's conscious business trainers, and then there's also CEOs who share their experiences. This person is a conscious business trainer who taught at the University of Virginia at the Darden School of Business. His name is Ed Hess, and he's written a book called Humility is the New Smart. And when he and I first met, I was sharing with him our vision for this training a new generation of leaders. I said, this is what we're doing, training a new generation of leaders. And to say that new generation doesn't just mean people of a certain age. It's all of us who are in this reinvention. And I said, Ed, we're developing these inner capacities, the ability to rest in the unknown and see what wants to happen through us, what creative act wants to use us, how that wants to be expressed at work. We're developing our ability to listen, to receive, to welcome others. And he said, Tami, in 10 years, what you're teaching now in the inner MBA, this is what they'll teach in business schools. They will have to. They will have to, or what they're doing will be irrelevant. He's like, you're just 10 years ahead of what will be taught in all of the conventional business schools. And the other thing he added is that so many jobs, and he functions as a futurist and writer, will be automated in the future. And as more and more of our jobs are automated, it's the qualities that make us uniquely human. Our creativity, our care, our capacity to reach out and let someone know what they mean to us, our ability to come up with a brand new idea, not a recycled idea. These capacities, these are the capacities that will help people find meaningful work in an age of smart machines. So that's really interesting. So here we are in the third part of the inner MBA, and we're letting our presence come forward, and we're asking questions about any part of organizational life that doesn't feel that it's actually congruent with our values, and we're willing to get creative and see what kinds of new solutions there might be. And, I've learned so much from so many of the different trainers and CEOs who have shared their stories. I remember I was talking to Rose Macario, who was the CEO of Patagonia for many years. And they said, I read something like that your policies to support new mothers were so generous that you were willing to fly a nanny along with a new mother who had come back to work if you had to go on a business trip so that that person could participate in the meetings. I'm like, really? I couldn't kind of fathom it. And she said, Tami, why don't you go back and do the math and find out how often that would really happen, how much it would really cost you, and then see what the impact might be in your workforce in terms of people feeling, and women particularly, who new mothers who we know come back to work and are so valuable when they do in terms of adding to the workforce. What do you think it's going to give them? What's your ROI on that? And before you go like, oh my God, really look at that. Really look at that. I recently spoke to another CEO. His name's Javon McCormick of a company called Scribe. And he told me that one of the policies they have at Scribe Media is that they've created a fund that any employee can access for emergency needs of up to $1,500, 60 days. You don't have to pay it back. There's never any interest. Then they create a generous payback program. And it's been so useful to employees when they've hit a hard spot. What I'm saying is when we're actually in touch with our heartful presence, we start seeing creative ways that we can serve the people we're working with, things that we thought were off limits. We did this thing, It Sounds True. I can't remember where the idea came from, but when the pandemic started, we could see that so many people were under all kinds of new stresses, especially parents who are trying to deal with, their kids and, hold on, I got to set up my kid with their homework while they're, and I'm coming to the meeting. And so it was like, could we just have a self-care day once a quarter, an extra day off so that we can fill up our tanks and take good care of ourselves as people? So I was like, okay, let's try it. Let's have a self-care day. I've never seen people respond with so much enthusiasm. So this is my point, which is to remake with the sense of heartful sanity at the center of our work life, how our businesses operate. And we can do this. So we train a new generation of leaders, people who are embodied, present, in touch with their hearts, care about relationships, and are willing to be bold creators. And we do that for a new vision of business. And I thought I would end just by sharing with you a little bit of what this new vision of business is in my heart. And this is just me personally. This is what it is to me. First, that our businesses solve real problems. We have plenty of them as communities and as a global society. I think when we have a purpose where our business is solving some type of real problem we face, and we're able to articulate that, we have rocket fuel for our culture, for our community life. There is a reason we have all come together. That Sounds True. One of our core values is being of service. And I can tell you, nothing motivates people like knowing they're contributing, that they're being of service, that they're responding to the pain in the world, to the ecological destruction in a way that matters. It puts wind under all of our wings. So that would be my first thing. What's this new vision? Solve a real problem, have a purpose that matters. The other, recognize that how we conduct ourselves is the most important thing, that the journey is the goal. There is no point where we'll say, check, we did it. We're mindful. I remember at one point I was talking to Fleet Mall about the whole notion of creating enlightened society at work. And he said, Tami, it's like doing the laundry. As soon as you've got all the clothes in the laundry, you have the dirty clothes you're wearing that need to be put into the laundry. There's no end to it. So we have to love the journey every step of the way and get out of this notion that the goal is some idea that we made some list someplace, or I don't know what some mythic idea might be that we've arrived. It's just a journey. Another principle for me for this new vision of business is that our organizational life can be an actual crucible for human development. That can be a bottom line, a goal, a reason for coming to work, is that we're growing ourselves. We're growing ourselves at work. I think that that's so important to me because, often people will say, and I already mentioned this briefly in terms of the context of my intimate relationship, relationship is your spiritual path. You learn so much. And I would say, yeah, in organizational life, that's a real spiritual path too. You learn so much. You have the opportunity to get so much feedback. Do you know what I mean? There's so many people who are watching you and they all see where you need to grow. They all see it. And they'll tell you if you ask them. They want to tell you, actually. They're dying to tell you. So ask them. Ask them. And now you've got, you know where you need to lean in. You know what your next horizon is. Another of our core values, a commitment to grow and transform. And look, it's not, everybody's not into it. And we've had people work with us. I remember one person when we were talking about how it was so important for us as a leadership team to feel in our bodies and to be able to name what we were feeling and to share our emotions with each other and to be able to say, here's what I'm feeling and here's what I need right now. And he just said to me, look, my wife's been trying to get me to do this for a decade and she's been unsuccessful. I'm certainly not going to do this at work. And I was like, I don't think you fit on our leadership team. This was quite a while ago. This was a couple decades ago. So you can declare we're a group of people who see organizational life as a path of growth, as a path of development. That's important to us. And we want to attract people who share that goal. Another part of what is this new vision of business? Money is secondary, not primary. One of the sayings I like quite a lot is more margin, more mission. I love making money. I love having more money to do more, to hire more people, to grow our efforts, to expand, to create new initiatives. But it's not the bow of the boat. It's not the bow of the boat. It's not what comes first. What comes first is what we're doing, our mission, and also our relationships with each other and our growth and our development. And those things can never be sacrificed. And money is oxygen that moves the whole thing forward. But I can tell you, when you put money first, it changes everything. It changes everything. If it's right there as a strong backup behind things, considered as you make decisions, supporting what you're doing, it's part of the intelligent design. Wonderful. That's different. What makes this new vision of business? All of the stakeholders are honored. All of the stakeholders. Again, back to that comment that Brett teased out. In an interdependent knowing, it's not just a vision, it's a knowing. We're all cells in a bigger body, a cosmic body. You can't harm a cell and expect the body to thrive. So we build in this type of stakeholder honoring. So we honor, yes, our customers, our competitors, our vendors. We're not interested in squeezing every last penny in order to have a vendor relationship. Far from it. We want a balanced, reciprocal relationship. And then it's amazing. When there are supply chain challenges, your vendors are there for you. They're like, you're the company I'm going to put first on the list. You can think of stakeholders in a very big and broad way. Your stakeholders can be the future. Sometimes I like to think of the actual wisdom teachings and the integrity that they're presented in as a stakeholder. That's a little out there, but there you go. Tells you something about me. I was thinking about this recently because it's something I've said before, and I think, God, really, you're gonna really talk about teachings in that way as stakeholders. And what I remembered, and I'll share it with you now as a way of being vulnerable and bringing myself forward and connecting with you, is that I remembered when I was young and I would go to temple with my parents, and I didn't really like temple very much. I didn't really like reading the prayer books. I thought it was kind of boring and stiff, but I liked going with my parents and being with them. And anyway, At a certain point, they would open the Ark, which held the Torah, which is the sacred text, the first five. And when they took the text out, I would always get weepy. Even as a kid, I would just feel like crying. And I was like, that's sacred. There's something sacred there. And I feel that. And so I think of the sacred texts and teachings as stakeholders in our company. And then in terms of this new vision of business, just one other point I want to make, and then I'm hoping there'll be some comments and we can talk together, which is I think business can be a place where we cultivate citizenship. Citizenship. It's amazing when you look at the statistics of how many people don't vote. It's amazing. Well, I don't feel connected. I don't really think it matters. I don't really have a voice. And I think we've trained people in organizations to not feel like they have a sense of agency, like their voice matters. And I think when people feel at work, I have a vote, my voice matters, we start cultivating this quality of citizenship that will then transform at a societal level as well. Now, there's a lot more that could be said about a vision of a conscious business that this training and presence will naturally generate, but I think I've given you an idea of some of the qualities and values that are the most important to me. And at this point, I want to open it up and see what the questions and comments might be. What do you guys have for me? Let's see. I see there's a slide here. In your experience, what have you found to be challenging for members in the inner MBA? Now, do I scroll down? Does it scroll? Oh, I scroll down. In your experience, what have you found that you didn't discover? Oh, okay. Well, one of the big things I found, and I wasn't prepared for this at all, was that a lot of people hold back sharing their voice at work. A lot of people. A lot of people have felt silenced about all kinds of topics. About, like, here I am, and I shared with you that story, about the Torah and all that at the temple. And part of me is like, oh God, really? A lot of people have a lot of deep inner experiences that really matter to them, that are important. I mentioned this quality of feeling lit up inside. They have experiences of just deep inner knowings, and they don't talk about them at work. They don't share them. And what I saw is that part of what the inner MBA is doing is it's giving people permission to come out of the closet as, I'll just go ahead and say it, spiritual beings. I don't have to only present with a mask this like evidence-based proof of what's happening inside me. I can share what's actually happening inside me. You don't need to, it's not about belief. It's not about you liking, it's not about religion. It's not about any of that. It's just me being me. This is what means the most to so many people and matters the most to so many people. In a sense, you could even define spirituality as what matters most, as an inquiry and a discovery in what matters most. And yet we've created a norm at work where we can't share those ideas and thoughts. So that's one of the things I've seen is people are really seeking and needing permission to be themselves and speak from their hearts about all kinds of things. And that's just one example, an important example. Well, I think one of the best ways you don't push anything is you don't push anything. It's yours. It's what's important to you. So I always say to people, this is what's important to me. This is what's happening for me. What's happening for you? What do you care about? What really matters? Now, there is an ethos of the kind of community we're trying to create. It sounds true. So we're very public about what our core values are and what our mission is. And when we're interviewing people, we'll say, how are you going to contribute to the culture here? That sounds true. Curious, what are you going to add? And then if people say, well, I don't have anything to add. Well, that tells you something. If somebody says, you know what, I'm going to add a volunteer softball team. I love pogo sticking, and I think that there might be more people who like pogo sticking. Would that be okay? And if you asked me, I'd say, that sounds great. Let's see how many people want to pogo stick with you. Like, cool, great. So it's an openness. It's a receptivity. It's not a pushing. It's an inviting of heart and creativity. It's not saying it has to look like this or that. Does it have to look honorable? Yeah. For me, it does. So if you think that's like pushing, I don't know. Is that pushing one of the values that's inherent in mindfulness? I don't think so. I think that's saying I want to work with people who tell me the truth because you can get that from me. I give that, and I need that from people I work with. It's what I need. Otherwise, I can't work successfully, because trust is the basis of psychological safety on teams. And in order to have real trust, you have to have a bunch of truth tellers in the space. All right. What am I learning? Oh my God. I've been learning so much, actually. I think the universe might have conspired with so many of these different learning environments. Oh, I conspired with the universe because I like learning new things. So one of the things I learned, and it was a really big aha moment, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, but sometimes when you ask a question, people will say, wait a second, why are you asking the question that way? And that there were certain things that I thought were in polarizing tension, that didn't need to be. So for example, one of the things I was, I think, confused about was an emphasis on wellness and work-life balance and people having, I mentioned this pandemic self-care day, and that being a cost to the company. So it's like, God, we have our mission. I want to get all this done. And oh, now we have this wellness. It's so important to people. Like, how do I bring these things together? That's how I was seeing it. Like, I've got to figure out how these are both important. How do I bring them together? What I didn't see is that the more you honor people's needs for well-being, for balance, the more you create a people-first type culture where the people who work with you really feel cared for. It's not a cost. It is a mojo maker. It creates so much more productivity. It unleashes so much more energy. These things are not in opposition. In fact, if you want to get more accomplished, honor people's needs for wellness and well-being, and the results are remarkable. So that was a very big aha for me, and it changed my orientation around it. And the results have stunned me, actually.
Wow, so great. I wanted to not intervene, but we're getting close to the last few questions here. And I want to come on as someone who's been in the program and ask a couple of questions. One is about, there's the stages that you named, so about the various phases of the program. There's also kind of optional material, which I've also found very poignant and useful, around developing and inhabiting, if you will, a conscious business. Can you speak a little bit about why you felt like that was necessary part to add to add?
Sure. We decided to create a series of what's called conscious business accelerators, so that people could see, okay, I'm learning all these skills. I'm developing all of these new capacities. How do I put it all together and apply it to something like conscious marketing? How do I market without feeling like I'm trying to talk people into things? How instead do I lead with what really matters to me in marketing? Another conscious business accelerator, and this came up because we saw in the first cohort that people brought up the real challenge for me is I have a lot of challenges around money. So
Mhm.
the accelerator is on the inner mastery of money with a gentleman named Spencer Sherman, who teaches the intersection of meditation and Dharma and finances. He was a wealth advisor for many years. And a lot of people were like, my challenges have to do with how do I bring this all into charging what I'm worth, managing money successfully. I hear that when you're resting in this state of open presence, you feel a kind of natural abundance. Well, I'm not feeling that. I don't feel that. I still have this part of my mind that says there's not going to be enough, and that drives
Mhm.
my business behavior. So we created a conscious business accelerator with Spencer specifically on that topic. And then interestingly, one of the most successful, one of the most viewed conscious business accelerators is on becoming a B Corp and the process for organizations to be able to qualify for that certification.
Interesting. Well, it's been valuable information, so I'm really glad you brought that online. The next question I have is, and first of all, I just want to check your time. Do you have time to take a little bit more, a few questions, or?
Yeah, sure. I
Oh,
want to be complete and serve it all up, Brett.
okay, great. I just want to make sure because I know you're a busy person. Um, the question I had was, and this is kind of where I said I really got to get Tami on here because the thing that catches my curiosity is what was it that caused you to decide I need to build inner MBA?
Yeah. What I saw was that organizations were starting to explore mindfulness as a meditation practice. They were starting to give subscriptions to apps so that people would begin mindfulness meditation. And I thought, that's really good. That's really valuable. And we need to make these connections between the formal practice of meditating with interpersonal presence and becoming creative forces of change in the world.
Mm,
We need the whole package. Mindfulness opens the door. It's the beginning of the training, but what comes next? And I thought, it's time. We're ready. And I want to do it in such a way that there's no holding back. I think 10 years ago, people said to me, Tami, even the word meditation is not welcome in business, let alone some of the words that you use,
mhm,
being soulfully led and, business. And I said, I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting for corporation. The business is made up of humans. It's just humans. And humans, many humans feel that inner call inside. And I'm going to talk to those people. It's time.
mm, mm. And so the desire to bring not just the mindfulness training, but the skills that are then landed at to do the connections, to do the transformational work. But then there's this business orientation about it. So it's not just personal. It's like, how do I take this into a business world? So help me understand how this didn't just become MBSR, sounds true version of MBSR. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, well, of course. Well, I had to come clear in my own life that I've had a foot, you could say, in, I guess I would say, three worlds my whole
Mm,
life. One, deep spiritual inquiry. Since I was a kid, went to India when I was 21, started meditating. I've been in business, second world, since I was 22. Sounds true, is 37 years old.
mm,
And I love business. I think entrepreneurs are some of the most creative, wild thinkers. And in terms of solving many of the problems we face as a collective, I'm counting on entrepreneurial minds to be leaders in that process, solving our problems creatively in self-funded ways, with
mm,
socially responsible funds coming to support their vision and expanding. So here I am, a person, deep foot in the wisdom world, deep foot in the world of business. And then I would add, I mentioned it already, I'm someone who really values relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think relationships are critical to our sense of fulfillment, and that many of the most important relationships we have, at least for me, happen at work. They happen through partnerships. They happen with investors. It's such a source of love and creation. And bringing that all together, there you have it. There's the inner MBA.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a vision. When you were talking about your experience so courageously about the Torah unfolding,
Uh-huh.
I really felt you in that, like, this is sacred, right? And so I just want to name that, like, oh, that's so powerful, because I feel like that in some ways you're nurturing the sacred in all of this, and I don't. That's just the way it felt to me, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm so delighted that you're here. Is there anything else that you would like to impart or leave us with today?
Well, I think we could just end on the note that our lives are sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Our lives are sacred. They're given to us. Everything's been given to us, as Brother David Stendhal-Rost says.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't earn this life. It was given to us. And now we get to be givers. That's how we complete the circle. And when we honor the sacredness of our lives, then of course we want to make our organizations also feel that they're an expression of that. And you don't have to use that word. You don't. We just did. And it's powerful, but you can use other words like filled with genuine care.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, people like that, those words are acceptable. It's the same thing. Filled with deep appreciation. It's the same thing. And maybe, Brett, a way to end would be to share with you something I learned from John Mackey of Whole Foods. He talked about how they would end their meetings at Whole Foods, at least at some level of the company that he was participating in, with appreciations and with gratitude. And we started doing that at the end of our leadership team meetings. It's an open kind of situation where we just express whatever's naturally in us. If there's like, I'm really grateful that you took the time to help me with this project, or I'm grateful that you completed that last week, even though you had to stay late to do it. I'm grateful for your red shirt. It could be anything, but it's not forced. Some weeks we don't have anything. There's nothing to be said. And some weeks it goes on for 15 minutes. And so I just want to end with an appreciation of you and this event. The future is mindful, for your contribution to raising us up. And I also want to appreciate all the people who are here, who are interested in learning and growing and transforming their lives and their work. This is going to be a creation of all of us creating the future is mindful. So thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. And once again, thank you for being here and accepting our offer. Blessings to you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Oh, wow. I have to take a breath to kind of, I was just talking with Tami Simon. It's kind of like, wow. And what a gift she is. Mark, if you're around, you want to come back on the stage, and we can. So that's a wrap.
What a great closing by Tami. That was very enlightening. I loved all the different ways that she was talking about business and different angles and mindfulness. So loved it.
Yeah, it was great. This has been just kind of looking back now on 2 days that was just an idea, a wonder if, not too long ago, and here we are. And so I just want to, bow to Mark, my colleague in this, and his industrious, practical-minded, unbelievable ability to get things done. And here we are, looking back, going, I think this went pretty well, even despite the technical problems from time to time. And I so appreciate the people here who kind of persevered through that. And I hope that this was useful for people. We do have a couple of things to point out before we go back to the tables. One is that we have a lot of webinars that are coming up after the event. If you go to thefutureismindful.com and you click on the webinars, you'll see a listing of some incredible webinars. I would share the screen and go to it right now, but I'm not quite there yet. But I do want to maybe read a few of these titles. So just give me a second here, and we can tell you some of the things that are coming up, because you are going to want to be here. Like Mark Leonard was doing one, and so is Authentic CEO.
Mindful Work is doing one as well. A few of our friends that we almost invited as speakers, but we couldn't fit in. They're doing webinars. A lot of them are happening in a couple weeks. So we'll definitely be messaging everyone, reminding people who are interested in these webinars, which are very similar to some of the talks we had today. We're looking forward to continuing the conversation and holding space for everybody for having this conversation and helping make the workplace more mindful, I guess, is part of what we're doing here, right? Right, Brett?
That's the idea, right? That's the idea, is to help us all have a better experience, not just, and I think sort of like really challenging this whole idea of, oh, there's work-life balance. It's not really about work-life balance. It's about life, and work is a part of my life. And redesigning and supporting the conversation in a lot of ways. We talk about, Mark and I talk about that we want to the vision of the future is mindful is to just simply facilitate the conversation of how do organizations reinvent themselves to become more whole places where people can be better people. And
by the way, I'm posting a link to the Inner MBA, which we are also grateful to share Tami's work there. So if you'd like to check out the Inner MBA, we just posted a link in the chat, and feel free to check that out.
And also, for those of you that are here that are interested in recordings of all these events, there is if I can get down to the chat box here, hold on a second. I'm going to post a link to that. This is a special link that's just for the people who are here. That gives about a $20 discount on it. We're not charging a lot for that, but there is some, because we do have some cost in producing all of this. And so if you're interested in recordings of all these amazing talks and panel discussions and the wellness sessions, then there's an opportunity to sign up for those there. And we'll be getting those out to you probably in a week or so. So once again, thank you.
Sorry, go ahead, Brett.
So I was just saying thanks, and we'll be out at the session. We'll be out at the tables here in a minute to chat.
One note is that we'll be sharing out quotes and little snippets and highlights from all the speakers. So definitely reshare our stuff on LinkedIn if you're open to that. It'll just help us get the word out, and definitely connect with us, Brett and I, on LinkedIn or at any other social platforms. I'm pretty active on there. I know Brett is as well. We're happy to connect with everybody here and also connect with each other. We're all here to support this movement, and it's definitely gaining momentum, and it's great to see. So thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
And everybody here.